Well, hello. Finally, we have the Hidden Gems business plan prepared. Business plan for boutique tour guide service for Malacca, Malaysia, owned and operated by Irene Moaeng. Okay, so this is simply a plan. It's just the basic framework. It's kind of the underlying element of getting started. All right. And everything you do, of course, is strictly up to you. It's not even spelled out here, right? That you add the creative part now. I've kind of done the MBA style material, the background, the justification, the outlook, the financing, the budget, that kind of thing. So let me just go ahead and jump into it, and just rest assured it's your actual endeavor, and that what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it, of course. And the artistic element comes from you, the creative element. All right. And what I always remember is you gave Susan a wonderful tour, okay, when she was there, and she just really loved it and got a lot out of it. And you did a lot of really cool things, okay. And it was your personality that pushed that made that happen. So let me just briefly tell you what's in the plan, table of contents here. I have quite a few illustrations. Some are just pictures and others are more important. I have an executive summary that just kind of summarizes the whole plan. A very tiny brief history just to set the stage. Some elements of tourism trends. What is going on in Malaysia, okay? And that's where I did a lot of research, and that's some of the stuff you saw, some of the pictures I sent you, where I really kind of researched to make sure this is a good idea, okay, to make sure this is a workable idea. We've already talked about the tours, you've seen the flyer, and that's what you're going to adjust and create yourself, okay? The research, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. It's going to be your research. A little bit of a budget, tour fees, how you're going to determine what you're going to charge, all right? How are you going to advertise? Are you going to advertise? And here, certification licensing, that's going to be important, okay? So I have a little bit of help there. And then I've created a timeline for this to unfold. There's no hurry, there's no pressure. It's kind of a little early, but you can get started on your end of the planning. Here's yours in my biographies. Here's some maps I think are interesting. And then here's the works cited list, just to show this is a really professional endeavor, okay? So let's just jump into it. Table of figures, you can look at that yourself. Okay, map of Malaysia, that's kind of... So I'm assuming two things, okay? I'm assuming that the whole world is getting vaccinated sooner or later, right? Okay, and there's going to be a pent-up demand for tourism. And I think in Malaysia's case, it's particularly from Northern Europeans who are looking for warm, unusual, and inexpensive multicultural experiences. And that's who this plan's aimed at. It's not aimed at everybody, okay? And I say also that Malacca, Malaysia, and I've kind of proven this in the plan, is very well situated to meet this demand, because Malacca is unique, and I know you live there, and it's your hometown, but I saw a lot of stuff there that you didn't see, okay, and I had a lot of excitement that, gosh, as a foreigner or as a tourist, this is really, really cool, right? So you have this very unique colonial history, your own history up through colonial times, right? And then you're close to the equator, which means you're warm, thank God for that, all right? And Northern Europeans really appreciate that. And then Malacca particularly is sort of off the beaten tourist trap. I mean, yes, you get tourists and, travelers, right? But it's not the go-to places like, different beaches in Thailand and different beaches in Australia. This is a little unique, all right? And I think that your tours are going to kind of capitalize on that. So that's the summary of the plan. Blah, blah, blah. So a little bit of history, background. This is the kind of stuff you are going to want to be able to talk about. The basic background of Malaysia. These are things you probably know, but you're going to need to articulate them, be able to put them in kind of an organized set of words that people ask you on the tours, okay? So here's kind of a brief timeline of the early history of Malaysia, all right? So what I noticed is that Malacca is still covered with really unusual ethnic and cultural and religious sites. There's just a lot to look at, okay? You have a lot of art, you have a lot of museums, you have a lot of historical artifacts, you have the temples, the Christian churches, the Indian temples, the Sikh temples, the Hindu temples, the mosques, the Chinese temples. It's on and on. It's really fascinating for an outsider, okay? And read a book in which the historian says Malaysia is truly at the crossroads of the world, which really makes it a great place to go visit for tourists who are interested in these kinds of things. I want to keep pointing out that this is not aimed at all those Chinese hordes that get off the white tour ships out on the Malacca Straits there, okay? It's not aimed at those people, okay? Nothing against Chinese tourists, but I don't think they're there for the culture. I think they're there for the cheap food and the cheap clothes and that kind of thing. Okay, going on. So this is a very, very good chart. All right, it's basically, I'm not going to go into it, but it basically proves that you have a steady increase in tourism. So I'm thinking that starting a tourism business now, that you develop over the next 2 years from now, you're going to be in the catbird seat. You're going to be in a really good place to start to make some actual money on this, okay, and maybe expand, have employees or family, who knows, right? So that's why we're going to start slow, and I'll get to that in a minute, and we're not going to spend any money yet, all right? So tourism trends, there's a lot of positive stuff going on. I'll let you read this, okay? Lots and lots of positive stuff coming up, okay? It's well documented. We're not making this stuff up, okay? This is documentation, okay? The negative things, of course, is I think this is really aimed at Northern Europe, okay, and including Spain, that kind of thing, all right. So there had been a negative trend in tourism in Malaysia from Northern Europe because it's kind of being replaced by Southeast Asian tourists, okay. So that's just something to to hang on to. We don't want to be so optimistic that we spend too much money or something like that. And then the other real negative thing is it's really hard to get to Malacca. Okay, it's terrible. The fact your city couldn't do the airport, whatever, Air Asia couldn't fly into it. Geez, that's amazing to me. Okay, so that's a negative. You got to take the bus or rent a car or something like that, right? And I took the bus all the time. So once again, though, this is aimed at kind of adventure. This is already aimed at adventuresome tourists. All right, our business plan. It's aimed at tourists who want an adventure. Okay, so that's fine. They're going to have to figure out how to get from Kuala Lumpur to Malacca, and you can help them too, right? I mean, you could, give them directions. You're not going to drive up there. You're not going to do that. Okay, so tours. We've already talked about tours, and this is going to be strictly up to you. These are ideas I've had, kind of based on my outsider experience when I was there, the kinds of things I really enjoyed doing myself, okay? And I can really see you with your vibrant personality, your bubbly personality, your artistic sense of really putting together some really cool things, half day, full day, with meals in between, that kind of stuff, that I think would be just a ton of fun, okay? So I'm not going to go into those details. So this is where you come in, Irene, okay? This is your job now, okay? You're going to have to know all these things, all right? So it was really fun when I was with Mark Roselli. I think you remember him with all the hair, right? He took me around Harmony Street and showed me all the different temples, and he knew what those were about. And I was just fascinated, because I'm a little bit artistic. I like architecture. I like history. I'm not religious, but I like all that stuff. Okay, it's fascinating. And he could explain what the temples were. He could explain what the statues were. He knew all this stuff. So you're going to want to steep yourself, and I'll get to this in a minute, in these kinds of things, okay? And I know it's kind of back there in the back of your head, but you're going to want to know the details, and that's going to be up to you. You're going to have to figure that out, all right? And then you're going to want to know some of the gallery owners, and you already do, okay? And I'm even including the frame shop. I thought he was a really interesting guy, a lot of cool stuff there. There's a couple of really cool antique dealers right there on Jonker Street, or the next street over, not the Harmony Street side, but the side going out towards the Spanish Hotel, okay? That side. Yeah, you took Susan to someplace really cool over on that street. And I think that's where I bought these shirts, all right? So you're going to want to know these people, be able to talk to them, and tell them ahead of time that, hey, I'm planning on bringing some tourists in. If this works out, are you okay with that? That kind of thing. And to be honest, okay, and I don't know how this works, but you could actually even come to arrangements with these people where if they came in and bought stuff, you would get a commission. Okay, but that's up to you, and you might know the customs better than me. Okay, so you're going to want to know what the museums are. And there are a lot of them. I have a map here, okay? You're going to want to understand more about Malacca colonial history, what the Portuguese, the Dutch, the English, and of course the early Arabs too, all right? And then the Christians. Christians, as you know, also colonized Malaysia and Malacca, all right? So pu'er tea, I think that's a big deal. Lots of people drink tea, particularly British, okay? There's a lot you could do with pu'er tea. Depending on the time of the year when the tourists are there, all these New Year's celebrations and origins. And there's other stuff I've seen where your dad took me to the dancing one day. It's called a Chinese, like a club or something. But I was there one day when there was a beautiful ceremony of some kind, and all these lovely women dressed in really pink outfits. They had really pink eyeshadow, and I had no idea what was going on. It was just marvelous, and I don't think it was Chinese New Year. I think it was another time. And then, of course, Malaccan Christian history. A lot of Northern Europeans are Christians, and they'll be fascinated to see your church and a couple of the other churches, the church on the hill, that kind of thing. So there's a lot going on that you can have fun really massaging and make it come to life, but you're going to have to know this stuff. You're going to have to practice it ahead of time. And I'll get to that in a minute. So budget. Okay. This plan envisions a slow but steady rollout, and little upfront costs are going to be incurred. Okay. Eventually, you might have to rent a small van or a driver in a van, which is really better than you driving. Okay. And I'm sure that doesn't cost much. And later on, you might want to have other tour operators. You might have a whole business, with other people leading these tours. It might be so popular you can't do them all yourself. Okay, so there'll be some costs there. Right? We're not going to do any advertising at first. All right, we'll get to that in a second. But you may have. I know you will eventually going to have to do Expedia and Yelp and TripAdvisor. And I don't know if there are fees involved. I don't know their business model. You'll have to Google that, look that up. And I think you already have some experience of that with Oriental Cottage Cafe. Okay. So then also you're going to have to register. It's very important with Malaccan and Malaysian tourist boards. And there could be fees there, annual dues. Okay. So how are you going to judge what to charge? All right. So you go to Expedia. It's very simple. You go to Expedia and search for Malacca, things to do. And they come up with all these things, top 10 things to do. And here are the prices, and here are the lengths of the tours. So you can start thinking, okay, how can I compete? Now, don't sell yourself too cheaply. Don't do that, all right? But one thing you can do is you can try to offer a more personalized tour at a lower cost, all right? And then the other thing you need to determine for yourself is what's a reasonable hourly rate for your work. I wouldn't get out of bed for less than $20 or $30 an hour, okay? And then you're going to have automotive insurance and gasoline, that kind of thing, and wear and tear in your car. So you need to kind of factor that in. Okay. Advertising. First, you're just going to go strictly hotels and eateries with flyers, go talk to people, that kind of thing. Then YouTube and Facebook, you could do a YouTube introduction and post that, kind of like I'm doing here. All right. Facebook, of course, you use heavily. All right. And then eventually you're going to want to go on Expedia. And I said that earlier. I don't know their business model and their fees. Excuse me, running out of breath. Okay, so then you have to register. Very important, all right? And here are the necessary forms and contact information. And you don't have to do this right away. Okay, so here is the actual plan, the timeline, okay? So I'm saying that the first 6 months, when you get started, it's going to take you about 6 months to design the routes, check the time, see what's going on, okay? Come up with 3 or 4 ideas that here's what I can do, okay, reasonably. So you have to study them, you have to know what you're going to do, you're going to have to know how long they take, that kind of thing. So you do that first. Then when you figure out what you want to do, you study the history and the architecture of those routes, so you know everything about them, okay? And then you need to talk to the vendors, the owners, art gallery people, that kind of thing, managers, artists, curators, that kind of stuff. Talk to them. Learn about them, learn who they are, tell them what you're doing, that kind of thing. And by the way, this is where I'm hoping you'll meet somebody. Okay, I don't think you're going to meet a tourist. I'm hoping that you'll meet somebody in here that could be a really good significant other to you. All right, that's my thought. Right, you might be lucky and find a Northern European tourist. You found me. Okay, so whatever. Okay, so then after you really understand what you're going to do, that's here months 1 through 12. Okay. The next couple months, you want to finalize the flyers, you want to finalize your advertising, you want to get the flyers passed out, right? And that's going to take a while. Then slowly, you just wait for the phone calls, you keep the flyers up to date, you see what's going on, and you slowly roll it out. You have to be patient. Things don't happen quickly. And this should be fun, okay? If it's not fun, don't do it, all right? And then you can also, during this period, start to refine the routes, descriptions, and prices, that kind of stuff. So you're sort of going to learn as you go. It's really important. And then finally, start thinking about Expedia, Yelp, and TripAdvisor, that kind of thing, to promote on there to really get the business going. If nothing happens here, you don't go here, okay? But I think something will happen in here. Hope that's helpful. Okay, so there's you and me biographies. And then here's some cool maps, all right? This is sort of the general area I'm thinking about. You're familiar with all this, okay? Where you and I hung out all the time. Now, this is a cool map. This is Harmony Street. I call it Harmony Street. You might call it something else. It's called Harmony Street because all the different temples represent different religions. There's a Christian temple on kind of down further past your end. There's a Hindu temples in here someplace. Got a bunch of Chinese temples, and they all live in harmony. They all get along with each other. Okay, that's why it's called Harmony Street. So that's kind of a fun one. And there's also the art galleries along here. Really be cognizant of the art galleries and shops, little pottery shops, that kind of thing. Really get all that, Then I think this is an interesting area that you and I never hung out in, but here's the Sikh temple, and they're really friendly there. And this was fascinating, the Sikh temple, okay? And they have big festivals. They're huge. They come from all over the world. It's a very famous temple worldwide. And then, of course, here's the Chinese Cemetery Hill, which, you know, we both like a lot. Here's the Portuguese well. That's pretty interesting. Here's that Chinese temple. And then you could take somebody up here on a short walk, you know, and show them some of the tombs sites and explain that to them. Plus, there's a great view of Malacca up there. And there are quite a few eateries along here. And there's, of course, quite a few eateries along here that I really enjoyed. And don't forget, you're not looking for high-end eating experiences. You're looking for authentic eating experiences. And one thing I don't have here, and because I didn't know where it was, I think it was near your church, but that really cool food court you took me to late one night. Okay, really had a good time there. Okay, so that's kind of stuff you want to not overlook, all right? And then... okay, here's the museums, all right? They're really important. People like museums. I'm not sure you're that familiar with them. You might know this house is Heritage Museum. It's a Chinese house, all right? I just loved going there. That was really cool. It's right down from Geographer. Here's Geographer, and there's you guys, right? And then this antique store, I've been in there. That's like really cool, okay? Here's, of course, Christchurch, right? Here's the church. Here are these museums. They're kind of interesting. They're kind of boring, but they're kind of interesting. You just have to determine who your people are. All right. You can ask people. There's the church on the hill, right? There's the kind of the fake palace, right? Yeah, they rebuilt it. Some more museums. What's there? There's the ship, right? That kind of thing. Well, that's pretty much it. I hope this is a little bit helpful, and it's your business, your plan. You get to, now it's up to you to put the artistic, creative element into it and do the work, okay? The research and the walking and looking around, and take your time, go slow, and by all means enjoy it. And I'm hoping you meet somebody, okay? Good luck.